All right, guys, let's talk about The Platform, which is a new Netflix movie put on Netflix that I knew nothing about before I saw it, and I just kept hearing people talk about it, so I might as well go check it out. And going into this movie, I knew nothing about it, like I said, and I'll keep it this very vague. I'm not gonna spoil this because this is an interesting movie. It really reminds me of the first Saw movie, where it's these two characters in a room and trying to figure out what's going on, and then you realize that, and this isn't spoiling anything, you realize that there is a platform that goes through every one of these rooms. Don't know how many rooms there are, where all these people are being fed from every day, like fed with one big table, and it goes through a certain amount of rooms, and these two guys are trying to figure out what's going on. Now that starting out the movie, that was pretty intriguing. I thought that worked really well. I thought that this movie set up a really good sense of what's going on. They do a good job of that. And like I said, it reminded me a lot of Saw at the beginning of the movie, like in a lot of ways, just because it's two people on their own figuring out what's going on in this little room. But it becomes definitely not the same as the first Saw movie, of course, but it reminded me of that very much. And the movie is very, very, and I'm going to say this in a good way. It's very on the nose metaphors and very political, where like it says that, like I said, with the main thing I said, where there's all these platforms that keep going down, and it's just one platform with a thing of food. The the person who's at the top gets the most food, and then the person at the bottom gets next to nothing, like capitalism. And it does a lot of that, and also it references things like saying a character is a messiah, and all these different things that are very like metaphors, but also political in a way, showing like, like the typical like person on the top versus person on the bottom thing. And I think that that works. I did enjoy this movie pretty much for the most part, but I felt like I was never really bored, but I felt like the movie is good. It's a good movie, but I just felt like by the end of the movie, it's weird. It kind of went off without like a big bang. It just kind of went off with a whimper. And I didn't dislike the ending, but I'm just like, oh, it's over. Okay, that's all. That's all. Oh, okay. Even though the movie does have an ending, but you know what I mean. Like it ends, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's already done. Okay. It's kind of surprised me how quick it ended, but it still had a complete ending. If that makes sense. It's not like they just like didn't have an ending. They did. If you understand what I'm saying, I think you do. But but yeah, overall, this one I thought it did a good job of being just a very good mystery, and I thought that it did a good job with all the metaphors. Like that, it was fascinating the way that they did it. Even though you've seen that kind of metaphor before in these kind of movies, it's very similar to something like Saw. It kind of reminds me of Snowpiercer a little bit too. With like instead of being on a train, they're in this place where like instead of it's up and down instead of like going across a train, but it had similarities to that. The movie's pretty vicious too, and I appreciated that. I liked how vicious it was, and again, it plays into like person on top versus person on the bottom, or like trying to fight your way up to the top. So I really think that's cool, and I think that the movie is solid. I think it's a good movie, but I just didn't really love the ending. I thought it was fine enough, but I just felt like I was just like, oh, it's over. Okay, that's how I felt at the end. I was like, okay, um, it's just one of those movies, if that makes sense. And maybe people might think differently, but for me, I was just like, oh, it's good. The ending's okay, but it's not great. Is what I mean. But yeah, overall, this one I think is worth a watch. Like I feel like a lot of people have already seen this, and I really wanted to see it because everybody kept telling me how good it was. And for the most part, I think it is really good. I do like it, but it's a fascinating movie, and I really did enjoy it. And the performances are really good. And also, it is a Spanish movie, but it's overdubbed, and they did a good job with the dubbing. The dubbing works in the version I watched. Maybe there's another language. I didn't even look at the other languages on the Netflix menu, but But I was fine watching it dubbed. Like, the dubbing was fine. It's just weird with the dubbing, but then the subtitles are, like, similar but not similar, if you know what I mean, where, like, you've got a movie where, like, it's overdubbed, but it uses the same subtitle dialogue from, like, the regular version, if that makes sense. Kind of weird. But, again, for me, I thought that this one is solid enough. I think it's good. I think it's worth watching, personally. It has a lot of good things about it. It just, the ending's the only thing where I was just like, okay, whatever. It's not bad, but it's not like I was blown away. I was just like, okay, fine. But overall, this one was a solid one, and I enjoyed it overall. Hey guys, if you like this video, consider checking out my other content. I review a majority of films that are pretty recent, and also older films, and mostly horror as well. Horror is my favorite genre, so I expect a lot of horror. And check out all my links down below. I have a link to Patreon. I have a link to Instagram, link to Twitter, link to my Facebook group, Horror Enthusiast 101, and to my own personal Facebook page, CDR Movie Reviews. And thank you for anybody who watched this video. Thanks for watching.